Joel Embiid left last night's game with a left knee injury, adding to even more injury concern and speculation here for the 76ers superstar. And in this video, we're going to take a close look at what I think is going on. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and my goal in this channel is to help teach you about the medical side of the sports world. So if sports injuries and anatomy interest you, then please consider subscribing to support the channel. Let's dive right to this play. Now, we'll get in a little bit here to this whole discussion just over the last few days about knee swelling and sort of what to expect. There were a couple times in this game where Embiid got banged up a little bit. The play earlier in the game was his right knee, I think, where he collided with Draymond. Here, of course, we're dealing with his left knee. And remember that Embiid has been missing some time because of this left knee swelling, this left knee soreness. There's nothing necessarily as he rolls over the ball here that I see. But then what you'll notice is the Warriors player basically lands on Embiid's left leg. So here he seems okay, seems like nothing's wrong. But then all of a sudden we see him come there and right there land on more the tibia. So of course the patella, we can see the outline right there of the patella, the kneecap. So this is going to be femur, this is going to be tibia down here. And the Warriors player just lands on his tibia. But what that does is it abruptly forces Embiid's knee to go into extension. Now it's not like it hyperextends. So this isn't a hyperextension, right? Neutral is going to be just here at this position. And it doesn't look like, the ball is further over here. So there's nothing that's necessarily levering. Yep, there we can see his shoe is already on the floor. So this is a neutral knee extended position. So I would not call this a hyperextension. However, we don't know necessarily what Embiid's normal knee range of motion is. It's very possible from previous injuries, previous surgeries, that maybe he lacks a little bit of full extension. So if we go out there and we try and fully straighten out his knee, he might be 5 to 10 degrees short of being able to get to full extension. So essentially for him, then this is a sort of forced extension where his knee typically is not able to go to this much range of motion. But then whenever somebody lands on it, of course, what that's going to do is it's going to stretch all the structures on the back side of the knee. Now, I don't know if this necessarily means anything, but of course we see Embiid grab at more that outer back portion. And one of the structures on the back side of the knee is the hamstrings. The hamstring tendons come down the back side. There's the biceps femoris on the outer part of the knee, the semitendinosus and semimembranosus on the inside portion. And so certainly if Embiid's baseline knee range of motion is reduced to where this is a forced sort of hyperextension mechanism, I would worry about the soft tissues on the back of his knee being strained. So something like the hamstring, maybe a little bit of that capsule on the back side of the knee. However, I would not be worried about the other things that we often will see with the hyperextension. For example, with hyperextensions, we think about possibility of ACL tears. We think about PCL tears. We think about meniscus tears, big cartilage bone bruises. Remember Giannis back in the playoffs. Those, however, are only going to happen when the bones get pushed beyond their natural point of extension. So in this case, it's more the soft tissue that's potentially being stretched. But whenever we see bone bruises, ACLs, etc., that's when the bones are being pushed beyond their normal part of extension. And that's not happening here. There's nothing in this case that's going to cause his bones to severely knock together to lead to a major bone bruise or lead to something like an ACL tear. So still very possible to have some pulling, some stretch of that hamstring, the muscles, tendons on the back side of the knee, if Embiid doesn't have sort of normal full extension in that left knee. So that's the big thing that I would be thinking of if we're purely just focused on what's going on from this. The other thing that we have to think about here, and this leads into our next part of the discussion, is part of me wonders if Embiid has been maybe dealing with some patellar tendonitis. And so whenever somebody lands on the front of your knee, of course, the patellar tendon is running right there. It's very possible that could really aggravate and flare up his patellar tendon. And the Warriors player here does land about where that patellar tendon is going to insert down onto the tibia right there. So I also wonder if some of what he's been dealing with was patellar tendonitis. This could have flared up the patellar tendon, but this would not cause a patellar tendon rupture, so to speak. Now, I know coach said after the game this was separate than what he's missed time for, but with all the criticism that's been going on around Philadelphia with Embiid trying to duck the Nuggets, etc., you wonder if some of that was just being said. The other moment I want to highlight here from last night is this play where Embiid was trying to just run up and push off. And you can see how essentially his knee looks like it gives out. And I think this is probably him feeling something in his left knee. We can see as he goes, he steps and mainly is going right there on the left side. But then as he goes to push off, he just gives way. And it really does look like it's that left knee that's kind of buckling underneath him. And I suspect this is because of pain or whatever he's been dealing with from the days before or throughout the season. Embiid has a pretty lengthy history of knee issues. Talking specifically here about the left knee, of course, Embiid did have a surgery to remove some of that meniscus, something we call a meniscectomy in his left knee back in 2017. His more recent injuries, though, I believe the LCL was on his right knee, and I think the other surgery was on his right knee. So This was the only one I could quickly find about that left knee, but this shows that he's had issues, particularly with that left meniscus. But patellar tendonitis, like I mentioned earlier, is another common injury that players will deal with just off and on throughout the season. And whenever Embiid goes to push off here, that's going to load his patellar tendon. So right here as he goes, he lands, he goes to explode. That's going to stress his patellar tendon and be a very clear time where he could have some giveaway weakness secondary to pain coming from his patellar tendon. So I think patellar tendonitis, always got to worry about the meniscus in these basketball players, especially when they've had previous surgery. So that leads into the last part of our discussion with what's going to happen next and what are we going to see on that MRI. I will be honest, I'm a little bit concerned because whenever you have an athlete who's had previous surgery, especially, when you get an MRI of their knee, you're going to find stuff abnormal. They are going to find some irritation in the cartilage. They're going to find probably some irritation in his meniscus. They're going to find patellar tendonitis. They're going to see a lot of abnormal stuff in Joel Embiid's MRI. The challenge then becomes how you extrapolate between what you see in the MRI and what's in front of you in clinic. What's symptomatic, what's not symptomatic. Occasionally we get in these positions where the athlete's had knee swelling, knee pain. You see a meniscus tear on the MRI and you think, well, maybe that's symptomatic. Let's go in and do a surgery. And before you know it, you've taken even more meniscus out and it's just this really slippery slope. So I think there is absolutely a chance here that they could find something in his MRI, maybe entirely incidental, that then they feel needs an intervention right now. Now, probably nothing that needs a long-term like meniscus repair type of thing, but very possibly something that needs scoped, whether it's now or at the end of the season, at least from their standpoint. So I think there's still a lot more to be discussed here, a lot more to uncover in this whole injury saga. That's it for the video though. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.